Let me tell you a quick story. So, a few years ago, I was launching a recommendation engine for a SaaS platform. And the engineers were really excited. The product team, including myself, of course, was really excited. Stakeholders, CEO, everyone was really, really excited about this product. But it failed miserably. Why? Before we get started, my name's Sully. I've been an AI product manager and a technical product manager for over 5 years in North America. And I'm here to help separate chaos from clarity. We ended up doing a retrospective sort of breakdown analysis of what went wrong and why it went wrong. It was very obvious the wrong step we had taken. We had skip rating the product spec. Why? Because we were moving fast, and so we ended up shipping something. That people didn't really want. No one had written down what does a world with success look like for this feature. No one had written down what the problem statement was, what problem we were trying to solve, what success would look like, what is the goal, what is a wireframe of this feature look like, what are open questions, what engineering complications could come up. And with a recommendation engine, which is an AI product, data is a big part of it too. It'll basically make or break any sort of or recommendation engine. So we ended up wasting 3 sprints, which is the equivalent of 6 weeks of engineering time, which in the tech world is crazy wastage of resources, right? If you look at it from a lens of how much engineers are paid, break it down into whatever they're paid yearly and break it down into a weekly salary. And let's say there were 4 engineers in this project. I'm going to change numbers a little bit. 4 engineers into their weekly salary, into 6 plus my salary, into the weekly, divided into weekly salaries, into 6. So it ends up being like a big wastage of resources, right? So why does a spec help with all this? A spec isn't just a checklist. This is a common misconception that, a product spec is just check. No, it's actually a source of truth. It answers what we're building, why we're building it, who it is for, how will we measure success, are there any open questions, edge cases to watch out for, and then maybe a couple things that are more specific to a feature or product, right? For example, with a recommendation engine, data would be a very, very important part of a product spec. It's like pre-visualization in filmmaking, right? It's like storyboarding. You try to visualize what the film would look like before you actually start filming it. And great specs will also save you from feature bloat, from stakeholder confusion, from scope creep, trying to change things and increase things, and also last minute opinions of people being like, can we just do this or this way? So why do PMs avoid specs? I think a big part of that has to do with it's just not a sexy thing to do. Nobody wants to take the time out and write out a whole doc of competitor research and the what, the why, etc. And be like, hey, most people are just like, hey, I know this is a good thing to build. We'll build it. I'm sure this can't fail. Ha 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 ha. And then, right? And then of course you have stakeholders who want speed. Designers who want to just design and freedom, engineers who are like, okay, can you make a Jira ticket for me about this, like instead of me just reading the spec. But skipping the spec is really like skipping the foundation of a building, right? You're gonna be misaligned. Some person might make the windows bigger than they need to be. Some person might skip a door in a room. And then you end up wasting more time down the line trying to fix those errors. So that's the paradox. Writing the spec makes you feel like you're slowing down, but in reality, you're laying a foundation that will help things accelerate down the line. And okay, a good spec does not have to be 20 pages, by the way, okay? No one's gonna read that anyways. I think 1 to 2 pages can bring you a lot of clarity and can solve 80 to 90% of potential confusions down the line for most features. Just make sure you have a problem statement, that is what you're trying to solve for, your goals, what is the goal that you're hoping to achieve, and non-goals as well, like what are you hoping doesn't happen with this. User stories, which is very important, not what the system or the code or the app should do, but rather when a user sees this feature, what should they expect, or when they interact with this feature, what happens. wireframes or mock-ups if there are any with the designers. Open questions, call out what you don't know, what needs to be discussed, and lastly, success. Like, what does success look like for this feature, right? How do we align on a North Star, or sort of like the goal-oriented metric that can help us measure whether this will be a success or not. And it's not just money. Sometimes there's other metrics too. And so it's very important, and defining success is very important to do now, not after launch, because people get distracted. Priorities change. It's important to define success in that moment. And that's your accountability mechanism. And so once you've done this out, you usually, at least what I used to do, is have a spec review meeting with a lot of the stakeholders, and in that meeting as well. And this does really great things for three stakeholders. Firstly, your bosses, your CEOs, VPs, whoever you're reporting to, can now read a document that was presented to them that they read, and they can give clear feedback on it, right? They can tell you, hey, this doesn't make sense to me, or hey, this is great, keep moving in this direction. Designers can now have something to base their designs off of. Engineers can now start understanding, okay, this is what we're trying to build. How should we build it? What type of technical debt should I be considering with this feature? Is this feasible within a certain amount of time, or is this going to require a bigger rewrite? And of course, most importantly, it brings the PM clarity to say yes to whatever works in favor of the goal, and say no to distractions, which as a PM is very important. So in conclusion, I think try to be the product manager that builds fast and leads well. These really, really hard things to do in conjunction, but a product spec is just one of the tools that can help you achieve those in conjunction, right? It's, as I say, leadership on paper. That's essentially what the product spec is. But I'm curious if folks have other methods other than this that they've tried, tested. Feel free to leave it in the comments below, whether you are an aspiring PM looking to break into the product management world, whether you are a veteran where you work with B2B, B2C, or B2B2C, or whatever your domain may be, right? Maybe you're an entrepreneur who's solo running their own product. I would love to hear more in the comments below. And yeah, until next time, ciao.